Hey folks, so I read this post on LinkedIn by Dave Rigotti on how even PLG tech companies, including ourselves, user pilots here right in the middle, are not exactly following all the PLG best practices. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, this post and also why PLG is so goddamn hard, even for PLG tech companies, or why it's actually not advisable for every company to apply every PLG practice in their business. Again, when we look at posts like that, it's easy to laugh and it's easy to dismiss PLG as yet another fad that even PLG companies are not following to the letter. But again, remember, before you judge anything, you need to invite your good old friend Nuance back into the room. So let's look at why even some PLG companies may not be doing PLG. I'm going to start from the very end of my newsletter today. So the fact that some companies, some products don't lend themselves to certain PLG models very well. So, for instance, if your product is very complex and very technical and it requires a lot of technical setup, which is expensive, a standard 2 week trial may not be long enough for a company to really try your product, and it may be too expensive for your customer success or technical implementation team to help a user who is not committed to paying for your product implement your product. So yes, some complex and technical products may just not be suitable for a free trial or freemium model. And some PLG tech companies, like WalkMe, for instance, maybe like that. So WalkMe is sort of the old generation of product-led growth tech companies that's more leaning towards employee onboarding than user onboarding these days. And it's very, very complex to set up. So I'm not particularly surprised they're not offering a freemium version or a free trial. Another reason why a freemium or free trial may not be the best idea for a company is when it's very expensive to run certain processes in your product. For instance, the product includes video streaming and hosting services, or processing large amounts of data. Like for instance, in our case, we're like literally processing billions, trillions, gazillions of our end users data points in real time in order to trigger the in-app experiences to their users in real time. So obviously it's pretty expensive. So if we just opened the floodgates to anyone who wants to use user pilot, we would need to put in very stringent limitations on usage within the free version, which then, if we attracted a lot of signups, the level of limitation we would need to impose on the free tier in order for it to make sense for us economically would probably not make sense for the free tier users, because they wouldn't be really able to try out the product with the limitations for us to be able to keep the costs down across the board in order to turn a positive ROI on the free version, if you know what I mean. So you need to balance this out. I include an example from Melissa Kwan, one of my favorite people. Hello, Melissa, who made this mistake with her on-demand webinar software. So, not imposing limitations on the free trial also ran a very high video hosting bill for them. So these are things to remember that are kind of missing from this post. And of course, PLG is also very hard. PLG tech companies probably are not in this bracket because they typically have the knowledge and resources in-house to implement product-led. But let me tell you, I come from, SEO content background, and SEO content is a great acquisition strategy. It's evergreen, it's inbound, it's high intent, la-di-da, and it's cheap. If you look at it from a very long-term perspective. But in the short term, it's extremely difficult to execute. It's probably even more expensive than outbound in the very short term because it's not bringing the results and the return on investment probably until you're like a year or a year and a half in. And it's quite similar with product-led growth, that in order to really create a stellar product-led experience, you need to invest a lot of time upfront in understanding your user path and understanding the different user segments and different jobs to be done, and what end-up experiences you need to plant inside your product and when they need to trigger to really facilitate that self-serve exploration and adoption of your product. Right. I don't want to, record a 20-minute conversation with myself here. So just go and read the newsletter. I included more reasons why PLG is hard, but it's totally worth it. Just look at the numbers at IPOs of PLG versus sales-led companies, and you will know why it's worth investing all this effort upfront if you're in it for the long term. Hope this was insightful for you. Looking forward to seeing you next week, and do sign up for Product Drive. See you there.